My latest visit to Caracas this May was the 7th. I was an invited international election observer of the presidential election in July of last year, and on this occasion returned to observe the parliamentary and regional polls in my capacity as a member of the editorial board of the International Manifesto Group. I documented this visit for Kawsachun News. To gain insight into what Venezuelans were thinking ahead of the vote, we visited Petare, a neighborhood in the eastern Caracas area in the state of Miranda. It's one of the most populous favelas in Latin America, with a population of over 700,000 people. Entering Petare, the first thing we saw was an interminable number of local shops selling food, clothing, and other goods. Is there scarcity in Venezuela? It's more like abundance, at least in that neighborhood, which is one of the poorest in Venezuela.
Welcome to Venezuela, the most democratic country in the world. We hold elections for everything here and the people participate. You are in the largest favela in Latin America, and here there is peace and tranquility. We are in a country of pure peace, of pure love. Look at the people working here. We do not have war or anything like that here. These are people who work 24 hours a day.
Speaking to residents on the street, there was a common sentiment of respect for others' votes, irrespective of how they vote.
We are preparing for a new democratic process as established by the Constitution of the Bolivarian Republic. We are well prepared for tomorrow's gubernatorial elections, council elections, and legislative elections for the National Assembly. I invite all Venezuelans to participate in the electoral process so that we can become better Venezuelans, as the saying goes.
We simply call for participation, regardless of whether you vote for the right, the left, or the center. You vote by machine. It is a transparent process. That takes a minute. The only country in the world with this system is Venezuela.
Some residents acknowledge the efforts made by the government to provide goods and services. This Herculean effort is taking place despite U.S.-led crippling sanctions. They are designed to make the people scream and turn against the Maduro government. We went to another barrio, one that is less divided than Petare. The 23rd de Enero neighborhood is the iconic Chavista stronghold area of Caracas. I last visited it in 2013. It has since undergone remarkable improvements in housing, roads, parks, and social services. Residents were confident that Chavistas would win there.
Here we are in the Caracas government. We don't elect a governor or representatives at the local level, but we do elect representatives to the National Assembly. However, we are now organized as a cultural center and a social movement. We have the Coordinadora Simón Bolívar, which encompasses the structure of social programs and political organizations, including community councils, communes, and international support for the revolutionary process. This tradition has persisted from the Chavez era to the present day. It hasn't been easy at all because they've sabotaged us, attempted coups, riots to intimidate us precisely so we wouldn't go out and vote. But here, political consciousness has matured.
The day of the election, I visited a polling station. In my opinion, it is a fraud-free process. 1. After confirming that the citizen is on the electors list for that polling station, the citizen then enters the room. 2. Shows the ID card and undergoes fingerprint verification to ensure the person has the right to vote in that voting location and is then given written proof that the voter is registered to vote in that polling station. 3. The voter then proceeds to the actual voting booth, which features a computerized tactile touchscreen to select from the various alliance candidates in the races for parliamentary seats, governors, and state local councils, when applicable. 4. The person receives a printed slip, proof of the vote that can be verified. If it does not conform to the vote can be retaken. 5. Then the printout is deposited into a closed box. 6. The process is concluded when the voter provides another thumbprint to ensure that no one votes twice. What is my overall conclusion as an international election observer? Even if the ruling party wanted to commit fraud, it is simply not possible. The day of the elections, I shared my reflections with Venezuela News and Telesur English.
How important do you think the application of coercive measures and illegal sanctions against Venezuela is?
How can you evaluate the situation in Venezuela without considering the sanctions which aim to kill the Bolivarian revolution? People outside are unaware of what is happening in Venezuela today. People don't know about the social and economic achievements, and that despite the difficulties, there is important progress. It's not like some people in capitalist countries who say you have to learn from the first world. For me, it's the opposite. We can learn a lot from Venezuela and its resistance. On the same day, the exchange of ideas with the young Venezuelan presenter from Telesur English was also very interesting.
What distinguishes the Venezuelan democracy is as protagonists. That is, people see themselves as the author of their own revolution. When I was there yesterday in that barrio, everyone I spoke to, they say they want to vote in peace. And the United States cannot give lessons to anyone about a democracy and to carry out elections. For example, the way they participate in the comunas, they're the ones who decide what are the projects, and once it's accepted by vote, then they get the funds from the central government to carry out these programs. So, it may be strange for someone coming from the United States or Canada who has very preconceived notions against Venezuela, but Venezuelans see this as this is their revolution, and it's up to them to do it, carry out the way they think is best.
As an author and journalist, I have always admired and commented on the ongoing work of the Bolivarian Revolution to continuously improve its grassroots nature. Thus, in preparation for the July 28, 2024 presidential and the May 25th parliamentary and regional elections, I came across this speech by Chavez to a mass gathering during the 2012 elections. He proclaimed that in addition to these Chavista activities, they must reach out to others, such as the undecided, as well as new voters who have just reached the legal voting age of 18.
Con argumentos, con ideas, tenemos que ir a convencer a los indecisos. Hay un grupo numeroso de indecisos, de indecisas. Vamos a convencerlas. A convencerlos. Algunos que pudieran estar confundidos como producto de la campaña, la guerra psicológica que le mete miedo a alguna gente. Vamos por ellos. Vamos por los nuevos votantes, esa juventud más joven.
In response to my queries, some militants in the Petare barrio confirmed that the frequency of this type of door-to-door work increased during the May elections. In the speeches by PSUV leaders on the night of the elections, this was also mentioned. In a post-electoral exchange with Diego Sequeira of the Caracas-based Misión Verdad, he also confirmed that this Chavista grassroots improvement had indeed taken place. Moreover, he added that firstly, through this change in emphasis, there were fewer electoral promises that do not go down well with the electorate. Secondly, the researcher stated that this approach further liberated the PSUV electoral machinery to mobilize voters in key areas and persuade them to support the PSUV and its allies. The results of the 2025 national and regional elections reflected this grassroots improvement. Voter turnout remained steady at 43%, a notable achievement given the prevalence of political fatigue and opposition calls for abstention. Furthermore, a significant victory was registered. PSUV secured 253 of 282 parliamentary seats, up from 123. In addition, it won 23 of 24 governorships, a substantial increase. Finally, It has gained ground in state legislatures. With these gains, the Maduro government is now well placed to advance its economic and social agenda over the next 5 to 6 years. What lies ahead for Venezuela is a great period of flourishing, work, stability, peace, progress, and prosperity by the hand of legitimate leadership. On the day after the elections, I was also interviewed by Telesur Español. Venezuela is an example to the world of how to succeed peacefully and fight for progressive ideas. For example, everyone is now talking about Palestine. What country in Latin America was and is at the forefront of the Palestinian struggle under Chavez and now under Maduro? That country is Venezuela. Venezuela is much more than Venezuela. It is a hope for the world. I was encouraged not only by the election results, but also by the transparent and professional way they were conducted, in line with the traditions established by Hugo Chavez in the 1999 Constitution and after. I paid my respects to Chavez at the Cuartel de la Montaña 4 de Febrero, where his remains lay to rest.
In 1989, while Hugo Chavez was a humble soldier in the Venezuelan military, they heard and they saw the uprising in the streets of Caracas, known as the Caracazo, and the very violent repression by the pro-U.S. regime at the time. As a result, a few years later, conspiring with other like-minded soldiers in the army, he organized the 1992 attempt of a coup against the government in support of the United States. On that day, on February 4th, 1992, he unfortunately was captured. What did he do? He told his followers, "We lost this time. Lay down your arms so there will be no further bloodshed." But he made that very important statement, por ahora. That means, for the moment, we're defeated and we will come back. And in fact, he was right. They did come back. He eventually won the elections in 1998, and since then, he had been leading the Bolivarian Revolution. And when he died, the Bolivarian Revolution decided that his resting place should be here, Cuartel de la Montaña. Draws people from all over the world, irrespective of their opinions, to give homage to this outstanding Latin American, I would say, world leader as far as the struggle against imperialism and colonialism and in support of social justice.